I am in an eternal fight with my tripod and just to make my camera not look like this. And I am pretty sure that the tripod is winning. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Eva. The reality is that I have just read 3 things in the month of November. Now I've read many more, but I am in the middle of a bunch of very thick fantasy books and I am struggling to finish them because I don't have time. Without further ado, least enjoyable to most enjoyable read. So I've read my book club book, and it will have to go in third place, and that is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. This was my first Sally Rooney's book, and I'll be completely honest, I would have never picked it up if it wasn't my book club pick, which I am desperately trying to keep participating in, failing most months, but this month, because I found this on Scribd, so I didn't have to pay for it, I could just listen for free. For free, I pay Scribd, but you know what I mean. I decided to listen to Intermezzo, and Intermezzo is the newest release by Sally Rooney. Intermezzo is about these 2 brothers, Ivan and Peter. They have a big age gap in between them, and they just recently lost their father, and in the aftermath of this loss they kind of have to put their lives together. They are facing different challenges in their life and they are really struggling to connect with each other, and you follow both point of views and you kind of follow them in their own struggles separately, but also in the struggles between, you know, that relationship that's left between them. And I must say that I understand the appeal of Sally Rooney after reading these. I had some feedback from my friends that had read other stuff by her saying that this is quite different than her usual stuff, so it wouldn't really kind of be a testament to the rest of her stuff or her writing style necessary, so you have to read other stuff by her to understand why people really love her. But I think I do get it from this one a bit. I think it was well written for the most part. I think the stream of consciousness of the characters were very much in depth and convoluted in a way that feels very realistic, and that I appreciated the skill set went behind that stream of consciousness, because I don't think it's that easy to do. Was it annoying? At times, yes, but is stream of consciousness, our stream of consciousness at times of other people we know, potentially annoying, boring, or very negative or tough to listen to? Yes, probably if we could read each other's minds, we would feel a range of emotions. Some of them could be like, this is a bit boring, this is a bit annoying, this is actually quite triggering for me, or this is actually like I can't breathe. So we would actually generally feel those things probably if we could read other people's stream of consciousness. So I found that very realistic. I also really enjoyed, and I will start with the positives I guess, I really enjoyed the relationship between the brothers and how it evolves. That was the main reason that kept me intrigued throughout 500 pages of book. It's seeing those brothers circulating around each other, bumping into each other quite brutally, and then trying to make something of it. And that part of the relationship, because I don't read often this kind of literature fiction, it was quite new for me, it was quite refreshing, I enjoyed it. That is also about the kind of, let's go to the darker side, which is, this is not my genre, and I just don't appreciate or tend to like, for the most part, there are exceptions in these, but for the most part, character-driven stories that are like just slow-paced, mostly based on, again, the, you know, everyday life of his characters, they don't really do it much for me. It's not my favorite genre, it's not a genre that I reach out often to, and therefore, for me, at parts, this was quite boring. I wasn't that interested. And again, if it wasn't for her writing, probably I would have given up very quickly. Another critique is that I didn't love the sex scenes. I think that the few we get are quite cringy, out of place. I don't think they add anything to the story. We could have done without the descriptions of those sex scenes. Would have been for the best. Didn't think that were well written. And finally, the last critique is very, to be fair, personal, so it's based on my values and take with a pinch of salt, therefore, because it's a very unique perspective. But I did not love how Peter's situation resolved. I think that was very convenient for him, and I just had, morally, I was against the resolution of that. I thought it was, well, yeah, good for him, that's easy. And I'm not saying that there are not people that do that and works for them. I'm just saying morally, for my values, that was a bit like, didn't really like the resolution of that. So in case someone is wondering, probably no one, but in case someone is wondering, will I read more Sally Rooney? Well, if it lands in my lap by mistake, if I find it for free, if I find it in a charity shop, or if maybe I've purchased one of her books years ago and kept it on my shelves, I might read it. I'm not gonna go out to purchase it, if it makes sense. Thus far, at least that's how I think now. I've not been converted to the Sally Rooney's fandom. I'm not pulling my hair out. I need to be there when their new book come out. Has been 3.5 stars. It was okay. I think I get it. I get where the appeal comes from. It's not necessarily my genre though. So now the number 2, it's actually what I personally think that quality-wise would, spoiler alert for my quality list, it's definitely the probably number 1. This is Foster, and it's actually a novella. It's 89 pages, if I'm not mistaken. I found this on Scribd again, so listen to this on audiobook. Don't do it. It's better to just read a physical copy. Foster is a novella about a girl that is sent for a period of time to live with these people that her family knows. So we know, but we don't really know at the beginning why she's going there. She's just spending a period of time in foster care, basically, before going back home. And it's her story of her going to foster care and meeting her foster parents. Okay, so why did I say don't do the audiobook? Because the audiobook was read with an accent, with, I think it's Ireland this takes place in, and there were a lot of the accent and words that were Irish, and I could understand all of them. That's my fault, because I mean, it's not my fault, it just happens to be that I am a foreigner, and so therefore, you know, Irish accent for me are a bit more difficult to decipher, so I struggle a lot with the audiobook. But this crept on me subtly, and by the end I had tears in my eyes. I loved the end of this, and it doesn't feel like it's major events happening. Again, it's a very slow novella, but it's made of small moments that accumulate, and in the end that was absolutely a mess. I really loved the story in itself. I loved how this does something that I've never seen done before, like not from that perspective. I was expecting something horrifying, something very brutal and harsh, and it is in a way that it's not what I thought it was gonna be. So I really appreciated this story, and I will definitely check out more about this author. I would have loved for this to be more lengthy if you want. I just could imagine if I had spent 200 pages with these characters, how much the end would have hit me even more, but that's just wishful thinking. It makes sense. I'm happy with what I got. Foster, I would really recommend Foster, to be fair. It is a literature fiction, / I think it's also shelved as a historical fiction, because it takes place like in Ireland a bunch of decades ago, I believe. Don't quote me on these, but yeah, it's a literature fiction. That's to say, I do like some literature fiction. I actually really like it, but this was way more up my alley compared to Intermezzo. And at number 1, this is not because of quality list, it's just that it happens to be more in the category of books that I tend to steer more toward to, and that is number 1. I would have to put The Ghost of Sleath, I don't know how you pronounce it, by James Herbert. First thing I want to acknowledge, because it really bugged me, is that I did not know this was actually part of a trilogy, and this is the second book in that trilogy. So we are thrown in the story of Ash. Is it Ash? David Ash. So Ash, I'm gonna call him Ash because that's how I refer to him throughout. Ash is a paranormal investigator. Usually he works as a kind of an unmaking of his paranormal legends. So, you know, usually people say, oh, we've got a ghost. He goes in and he says, well, actually, no, you don't have a ghost. It's all in your mind, or you're making this up for money or for weather, for fame. And in here, he is sent to Sleth, and this is a town that's been hunted. There are some things in these are appalling, and there are some things in these are very good. Let's start with a neutral one. Neutral one was, I was quite frustrated that this was book number 2, because in these it does spoil everything that happens in book number 1. So I thought, actually, at the beginning I was like, oh, maybe I can go and, read number 1 and just enjoy that, and then he spoils it completely, and I'm just like, oh, I might still read it, but now I feel like I know exactly what happens, and that it's a big thing that happens, and it's something like it could have been very cool for me to witness that happening, reading that happening. So I'm quite frustrated with it. But that's kind of neutral. It's not it's not the fault of James Herbert. But just don't spoil your first book, right? Anyway, the positives. This kept me intrigued. From the beginning, we are following Ash's perspective, but also like what happens to different characters in the town. And I could see the threads being woven. I could see that very scary, unsettling things started to happen right from the get-go. And so I thought, oh, if we put all of these together, it's going to become very spooky. And it did. It just escalates. It becomes very horrific, and I loved the amount of unsettling feelings I had. I was uncomfortable at times. I was like, this is horrific what's happening right now, and it's actually very spooky if I put myself in that situation, like to try to really imagine myself being there. So I think atmosphere wise, horror wise, this nailed it. I think it's a very good horror book, and it was also fascinating having a whole town being hunted. It's a different take than, having the haunted house. Loved that. I really, really appreciate that aspect of it. What I think it's not as great, it's appalling, maybe it's too harsh, but I do think that Ash's character is very bland. I think by him spoiling book number 1, and in this book the way Herbert makes relationship happens within the book are not needed. It's needless. It shouldn't have been there, and it's a repeat pattern. So Ash does the same things in all the 3 books, my understanding, also from the reviews of the 3rd book, which I've had a sneak peek to. So Ash, bland. His relationship not needed, cliche, repetitive. So characterization, I think, is poor. It is everything, all the appeal in this book is about the horrific stuff that happened in this, which, to be fair, as someone who likes horror, I don't complain a lot. I thought this was a great read for Halloween. I read this mostly through October. I couldn't finish it, so I finished in the first day of November, but I will potentially check out more by him, and I will keep this, and I do overall recommend it. If you like horror, I think the horror elements are so good. The spookiness, what happens, and I can just be in there and like, oh, what's happening next? That was so good. So I still recommend this. If you're really too much into like, I need amazing characters, amazing characterizations, probably not. If you just need a good horror on the horror side, it's a good one.